Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to today's episode of How You're Getting Fucked. I'm your host, Louis Rossman, and today I'm going to be talking about something that really bothers me with companies like Anthropic. This is going to be more of a rant than it is to be a specific thing on consumer rights. It's just a rant because I'm just sick and tired of companies that do business in this way, and I wanted to talk about why it bothers me and why I don't think it is in their benefit long term. Not that I think any of these companies are thinking long term. So I use Claude Code for a number of different things. Some of the stuff is actually useful. As I've said in some previous videos, there were files that we had to do data recovery on that were corrupted. And literally, I have $20,000 of hardware in one box at the store. I have many expensive pieces of software at my store. Not a single one of these pieces of software even got close to being able to recover a file that had some sort of insanely fucked up metadata. And I was able to make this really crazy loop with Claude Code that used Gemini Deep Research on the back end every time it got stuck automatically to actually figure out what was wrong with this file and get somebody back a voice memo of a dead person, which is great. I've been able to use this to actually help me in my business do real things usefully, not just use it for fucking flock cameras, spying on people, making AI music and AI videos and bullshit. Stuff where I can actually help people. And it's been useful to me. And the reason that I use Claude Code for this instead of others is I've tried OpenAI Codex. In 2 months, it couldn't recreate what Claude Code was able to make in 4 hours. The open source AIs, I use Mistral for classifying my email, I'll be honest. Like something like that, yeah. But for a lot of the things I'm doing right now, it just doesn't work. And AI is one of those things. It's not like a processor where a Celeron will do the same things that a Core i7 can do. It's just a lot slower. This is one of those things where the open source models will often just give me the wrong answer. And it's not like a slower processor where it's more annoying, but I can use it. It's one of those things where the right answer is worth everything to me and the wrong answer is worth literally nothing to me. So while I can use an open source model for shit where I want privacy, like I want you to go through all of my emails and add tags to them and then classify them into folders to make it easier for me. I don't want some other company reading through all my shit for that. I'll take a little bit of lack of accuracy. When I'm trying to build things like this, it really is useful to have something that's always accurate and always works. The problem is that Anthropic knows that their tool is pretty damn good at certain things, and as a result of it, they start acting like drug dealers. And they're doing something that I talked about with the Trump administration a year and a half ago at tariffs, where when you make the business environment so uncertain, people just say they give up and they stop using your shit. And I wonder if that is ever going to get to a point where that happens when it comes to Anthropic. So what am I talking about here? With Anthropic, a few months ago, I talked about how if you had a file called hermes.md inside of your session, they were going to bill you more money. And what was annoying is they weren't being honest. They didn't say, hey, by the way, we've changed our rules. Just so you know, if you have a hermes.md file inside of your session, we are now going to bill you more money. So to give you a little bit of background on how billing works with a lot of these AI infrastructure systems, I'm going to compare it to pizza. Imagine that a pizza pie is $18. Now imagine for that same pizza pie where you get 12 slices of pizza for $18, imagine if each slice of pizza individually were $5. If you wanted to buy by the slice, a pie of pizza would cost you $60. Whereas if you wanted to buy the entire pie, same amount of pizza, $18. Think of it like a quantity discount. It's always cheaper to buy a pie of pizza than it is to buy the individual slices over and over again. And the same thing is true when it comes to a lot of these AI plans. If you look on Anthropic's website, you'll see that they have plans that are like $100 a month or $200 a month or $25 a month, around there, give or take a little bit, depending on what you're going to use. So I bought one of the plans with the idea that I'm going to use this, I'm going to see what I can use it for, and I'm going to use it to do things like file recovery and other projects of mine as I see fit. And it does a great job of it. API billing is kind of like buying individual slices of pizza. It's much more expensive. You pay as you go instead of paying up front, but you do pay out the ass for it. Now, one of the things that they did recently is if you had a hermes.md file in your session, they started billing you on something called extra usage. So let's say I go over my usage limit of $200 of usage. I have the option to now pay a much higher rate per query than I would be paying to be able to pay for the individual slices of pizza, but I can keep going with my session without having to stop and wait for later for my limit to reset. The problem with this is that they were not fucking telling people that they were doing this. They didn't say that we changed the rules. We're going to use your extra usage billing every time you do this. They just took people's money. And they came out and said, mea culpa, I'm sorry, after there was a big backlash over it, after people had asked for refunds and got denied. And now they're trying to do that in a different way. And they have a very shitty way of explaining it to people. So there are two different ways to use Claude Code. I'm just going to go through this as if you're somebody who doesn't really use these systems, because I imagine the average person in my audience, while being very technically savvy, wants nothing to do with these systems and won't use them on principle, which is understandable. So you have two different ways that you could use Claude Code. One of the ways you can use Claude Code is inside of the Claude Code program. So I can go, what is 2 plus 2? This is inside of a program called Claude Code in my terminal. And then it says equals 4. The next way I could use it is in my actual terminal without a program. So this is just a Linux terminal. I can go Claude Claude-P, what is 2 plus 2? Now, I'm not running the program, I'm inside of my terminal, but I'm invoking it from my terminal. Being able to use Claude-P inside of a terminal means that I can have a script that's already doing something else that then asks Claude a question, gets an answer, and then uses that for the next part of the script, which allows me a much greater degree of flexibility in what I can do than if I'm just working inside of the Claude program. Now, I may build my system differently if I know that a few months from now, you are going to do a rug pull and reduce my usage by 80 to 90% when I do things the second way. Now, here's what they did recently. They put out a Twitter message that makes it sound like what they're doing is they're offering you a credit. As a non-programmer, when I read this Twitter message, I thought, oh, look, they're giving me a credit. I don't need no credit. I barely use my full plan as is. I'm good, but thanks for offering me the credit. That's not what that actually means. What that meant is, by the way, when you use Claude-P, that's no longer going to take from your normal limit. We're going to be billing that at a new programmatic rate, which is similar to what you would be paying if you use the API plan. So now your Claude Max plan, which used to be about $200 a month worth of use, is actually going to give you maybe like $3 or $20 a month worth of use. But we're going to give you this little credit to make up for the fact that we've taken 90% of everything away from you. That is what that Twitter message actually meant. Now, I still had not realized that Anthropic was such a gaslighting bullshit company at that point, so I didn't realize that every single one of my fucking scripts that I've already made that uses Claude-P for what it works, all the shit I've been working on for the past 6 fucking months would have to be redone because I would be losing 85 to 90% of my productive capacity as a result of this change. So I spend the entire weekend after my friend tells me about this, redoing the entire fucking infrastructure for my project so that I could get it, so that it'll still work and still be able to do things without paying 10 or 30 times as much money as I was before. And then I get this email the day of. LOL JK, we're going to put that off. Sorry about that. Yeah, never mind. And I'm sitting there steaming like, you motherfuckers. Now, the reason that I use Claude Code instead of the other ones, as I've said earlier in other videos, when I use an open source model, it will give me an answer. Not the right answer. It's kind of like searching a forum. When I was using Claude Code, it makes mistakes. It makes mistakes a lot. But it very often gives me the exact fucking answer and builds something really cool, which is why it's very useful. I've tried OpenAI Codex, gold prompts, all different types of shit, different prompt engineering stuff. 2 months, it was not able to create a script that Claude Code was able to make in a fucking day. Claude Code is pretty ahead. However, is it worth it to invest in a system when the person that you're dealing with acts like this? Have you ever had a relationship partner in the past where you just never know when you wake up that day whether they love you or they hate you? Where one day they're literally breaking into your house using a key that you didn't even know that you showed them the location of to get into your house, to clean everything up just to show you how much they love you, only for the next day for them to say, I resent and hate the fact that you think I should have to clean for you when you didn't even ask them to and they literally broke into your house to do it. Like, have you ever gone out with somebody where you just never know? It's always hot and cold and you're just scared. There's no consistency whatsoever. That is what Anthropic and these companies seem to be like as business partners. And that was one of the problems that I had when I was talking about the tariff situation earlier in the year. Regardless of what you think of Trump's tariffs and how they worked out, one of the things that I was saying is that when I see in the news, okay, 50% tariff. Tomorrow, okay, there's a tweet, 100% tariff. Tomorrow, never mind, it's down to 40%. What I think at that point is I am scared shitless of buying a product that used to be $110 and then tomorrow that product costing me $210 or $230 when I sell this product to my customers at $200. I can't deal with that. I can't deal with going from having a profit margin of 50 to 70% to having a profit margin of negative 30% based on a tweet. That is very risky to me. So even if there is a great opportunity to make money there, what business people do is they start to walk away. As Eli the computer guy has said in many videos, and I agree with him, businesses don't need a great regulatory environment, they need a consistent one. They don't need the lowest taxes, they need consistent ones. One of the reasons that I left New York City was not because the taxes were high. This is a common misconception. Moving from one place to another for 8 or 10% in taxes is ridiculous. I mean, I have a built-in customer base. There's 8.5 million people in New York. There's 800,000 here. I would never move for that. It's when you audit me, and within the 2 or 3 years of the audit, you can't tell me what my tax rate is supposed to be, and you can't tell me what the rules actually are. Because when I don't know what the rules are, and you can't tell me what the rules are, that's when you hit me with that, by the way, Lewis, you owe over $1 million in back taxes when your company has less than $200,000 in the bank. I can't work with that. Business people can't work with that. I can't be in a relationship with somebody when today you are in love with me and literally breaking into my house using a spare key that I didn't even think you knew existed to clean everything. And then the next day saying you resent and dislike me and are really angry at me at the fact that I have these expectations of you that I Again, I didn't even know that you knew where the key to my house was. The issue here is a simple one. I think that Anthropic is acting like the super senior, and many of these AI companies, in my opinion, are acting like that super senior in Susan Wagner High School that would be sitting at the last stall in the bathroom, ready to sell Newports for free to the freshmen. Here's 5 packs of Newports for free. And then once you're addicted to the Newports, well, now it's $5, now it's $10, now it's $20 a pack. Oh, what are you going to do? Get a oh, yeah, you're going to order a nicotine? Oh, yeah. Oh, you can't order a nicotine patch because you're a minor. What are you going to do? You're going to go to the deli and buy? Oh, you can't because you're a minor. $20, kid. And that's what they're doing here. And this is what really annoys me, is that if they had simply said up front, hey, by the way, we're making this radical fucking change, rather than hiding it behind one of these really just... Can anybody read this message and tell me that they get the idea from it that you're getting a fucking downgrade? Anthropic has done this thing consistently, and many AI companies have, where they really, really want to get you hooked on the crack, and then they want to find all these sneaky ways to stick the tip in later. And that is not something that you do if you're a company that is offering a great product to begin with. I don't have to do sneaky shit to get people to utilize me for data recovery or repair services. I don't have to use sneaky clickbait titles like, you won't believe what happens next, to get you to watch my YouTube channel. My titles are usually very boring and very descriptive. My thumbnails are either usually a few words saying what's in the video or just a random picture of me from the video because I'm too lazy to make a thumbnail most of the time. I don't have to do tricky shit to get people to watch my content because it just I just let it stand on its own. And I think that this is something that's going to start backfiring on some of these AI companies, because the way that I saw that this weekend and what my thought process was even though Codex was not able to make me the tool in 2 months that Anthropic's Claude Code was able to make me in 1 day, even though it wasn't capable of it, I still thought in my head, maybe I should switch back to the other one. Not because they're morally better, to be clear, fuck Sam Altman, but because I'm not able to do business with a partner that's constantly changing shit on will. When I literally wasted my entire fucking weekend changing all these different projects I had going on, from using Claude-P to using different workflows inside of Claude Code, when I wasted all that time on that shit because I didn't anticipate that you were going to change shit like that, that really gets me thinking. I would actually be willing to use a worse product if it simply means that I don't have those types of heart attacks of, oh my God, in a few days, all of my shit is going to stop working unless I pay you 10 times more money. Because while people really like having good products, they also dislike being held hostage. And here's just another example, if you want to see an example of what I'm talking about when I say that they are trying to hook people like crack dealers. So I'm going to give you an example here. I did a test here just to figure out if this was the case. We're going to do a test and figure out what they're doing with gift accounts. So on the screen is what you get with a standard Claude Code account. I'm going to show you on the terminal. This is a standard Claude Code account. You have a current session limit, and then you have also a weekly limit. So you have a limit for how much you can do in a session, and then you have a limit for what you're allowed to do in a week. Now let me show you what they have on gift accounts. Gift accounts cost just as much as normal accounts. This is the gift account. What do you notice in the gift account? You have a session limit, but there is no weekly limit. So they were purposely making the gift accounts have different limits than the normal accounts, hoping that they could get you hooked and go, wow, look at how much usage I have. And then when you sign up, you hit your limits faster, and it's like, oh shit, that's not what I thought I was getting. Do they make it obvious in their marketing materials that that's what they're doing? No. Does the super senior tell you that the only reason he's giving you the first pack for free is because he knows that nicotine is going to be highly addictive and ruin your life? No. I don't see a difference here. I checked it a few months later to see how this is working out, and I got another gift account just to test my theory because I wanted to show this to other people and see what was going on. Now, a few months later, they changed it so that gift accounts, right before the IPO, now have a limit that is the same as their normal one. So this is a second gift account that was done a few months later. Current week, all models. You not only have a session limit, you also have a weekly limit as well. So a few months before they were talking about an IPO, they made the gift account have a higher limit than the normal account, hoping that people would get hooked. And then when it's time to IPO and actually start showing books and show that we're making money, that's when they started slowly clawing it back. And just like with the Hermes thing, just like with the Twitter message that was written in a very cryptic way, they don't write it in a way where it is obvious that that is what they are doing. But when you take a look at every single one of these actions, not just individually, but in context with all the other actions, you'll notice that they act very similarly to the person in high school that's doing their best to get the kids hooked on cigarettes, knowing that they're going to come back later, even if they're losing a little money in the here and now. And I don't think it's a respectable business model. And I honestly think that this is a business model that's going to backfire on many of these companies, because even if you do have the best product at the time, and I'll put it out there, I've tried a bunch of these products. Anthropic, like, you know, a shit company, they got some pretty fucking good models. Even if you have a good product at the time, a lot of people who are much smarter than I am, who are much better at figuring out how to rework things and make things, scripts work and everything like that, are probably going to look at this and go, I don't feel like getting dicked around all the time. You know what? I don't want to read a really cryptic message that's difficult to decipher that tells me that I'm going to have to change my entire workflow, but it's not even being direct about it, so I'm only going to figure it out when that workflow stops working. I don't want the mere existence of a file in my project to dictate that my credit card is now going to get surprise charges on it that I wasn't even aware of. I don't want to sample a plan and then realize that when I start paying for the plan, I have a lower limit than I did before that I would only be able to figure out if I was a fucking investigative reporter. I don't even know how to have that type of analogy to my business, because I've always said that with my company, I try to make the thing that bothers me about what a lot of other companies do is that they'll take part in practices that I would never even imagine doing to my own customers. It's not even in the Overton window of something I would think about even when my company is doing at its worst. Because my company has had, in the last year, I've been at a point where I had my payroll bounce and I had to do massive changes to everything and massive reworks to make things work the way they did. And even when I'm at the ultimate rock bottom, I don't even know what the analogy would be with a repair and data recovery company to what they're doing. But that whole idea of I'm going to figure out a way to like sneakily give people less shit over time and not tell them and have these weaselly ways of wording it are things that just never enter my mind when I think about the things that I need to do to make a company financially viable and work. But these people do it with a smile on their face. I'm very curious, for people who are actually building workflows and tools and things that are actually useful to their life, not making AI slop YouTube videos, not coming up with new and inventive ways to spy on your customers, but people who are actually building shit that allows me to uncorrupt a file from somebody who is crying over the fact that they lost their dead grandmother's last voice memo of something from the war. For people who are using it to build really cool shit, are you looking at things like this and saying, I don't even care how good this is, I just don't want to do business with a company that is like that horrible ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, where every day that I wake up, I know I'm in for a new adventure, a new argument, a new pile of misery, she literally broke into my house using a key that I never showed her existed to clean up everything, and then the next day started yelling and screaming at me saying, I can't believe you made me clean. Where I'm just looking and going, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's it for today, and as always, hope we learned something. Sorry for this video being a rambly rant. I really don't have the time to edit it, and my head is just not in the place to be able to make a well-orchestrated or organized video, but I kind of just wanted to get this point out anyway, because this business model is just something I'm really getting sick and tired of. Like, for some reason, we all look down with scorn on the high school super senior trying to get freshmen hooked on crack, but we don't, but like this is a $1 trillion IPO. See you in the next one.